Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to All Movement Radio and radio.com here on 92.7 FM. How you doing? I hope you're doing all right and having a fantastic Sunday. Those of you who are out and about in town, maybe you might still be in church right now. If you are in church, you are in church, and hopefully you are not listening to the show somehow in church. But if you aren't, thanks for listening and giving me some of your time. We have some stories in the NFL and really just around the world of sports that happened over the course of the last week that I just thought were absolutely interesting. One is Aaron Rodgers calling out Mike McCarthy last Sunday. They beat the Bills, and they won. They won by 21 points, but Aaron Rodgers felt like it was an ugly win, and it was for the offense. Like the offense didn't get into gear. They couldn't find a rhythm. There wasn't any flow to the offense. That's what Aaron Rodgers said. And he blamed Mike McCarthy pretty much outright. People said that he was being passive aggressive, but he pretty much said the game plan was the reason why we had no flow, which is not being passive aggressive at that point. That's just being aggressive. And Mike McCarthy fired back. Yeah, well, Aaron Rodgers has input into the offense, plus he can change the play at the line of scrimmage, which is also true. The two of those guys are squabbling with each other, but here's my crazy theory that I have zero proof of. I think Aaron Rodgers wants to get Mike McCarthy fired. And I believe that Aaron Rodgers wants to get Mike McCarthy fired because Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league with the fewest amount of rings or even Super Bowl appearances to show for how good he is. Now, we know why Drew Brees isn't more successful in terms of the number of Super Bowls. Drew Brees isn't more successful because that team doesn't play defense, which if you had that as an excuse, you could use. But the Packers are actually pretty good defensively. They're not great, but they're pretty good. So why is it that the Packers seem to have these weeks where they can't score, where they can't move the ball? The only thing that I can think of is coaching. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is wrong. Coaching matters. You know, one of the things that gets leveled at Tom Brady all the time is Tom's a system quarterback. Tom's a system quarterback. But great quarterbacks historically have played in systems. Joe Montana was also a system quarterback. He played in a system called the West Coast offense. It was revolutionary at the time. Like nobody was running anything like it at the time, but wasn't that a system? Like there are players that play in a system. Peyton Manning played in a system. Sure, he had a lot of control over that system, and he could change just about anything at a moment's notice. And if that's the kind of quarterback you want to be, but I don't have a problem with a guy being a system quarterback. Systems create greatness. Systems put you in a position to succeed. So I don't have a problem with a guy being a system quarterback. Tom Brady being a system quarterback just makes sense. Aaron Rodgers feels like he's not a system quarterback, and he actually has a problem with this. And I'm down with the cause. Mike McCarthy is an average football coach. If Mike McCarthy coached any other team with any other quarterback, does Mike McCarthy still have a job? Mike McCarthy does not still have a job. If he's coaching anywhere else, like think about it. Mike McCarthy is one of those guys that he managed to pair up with a legend. Like if you look at Scott Brooks in Oklahoma City, Scott Brooks had a job at Oklahoma City, even though I think Scott Brooks is a really decent basketball coach. He's not bad. But Scott Brooks is also not the best basketball coach we've ever seen. Scott Brooks had Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. And I don't think at the time we knew how good those guys were going to be, but they absolutely saved his job. When we had late game situations where one of those guys would try and take over because there really wasn't a game plan, that's on the coach. That is on the coach. And Aaron Rodgers calling out Mike McCarthy for a weak game plan. Yes, Aaron Rodgers throws the ball. So his complaint that Devontae Adams isn't touching the ball more kind of doesn't make any sense because he's the one throwing the ball. He's the one that can adjust plays at the line of scrimmage. But you're adjusting plays based on a game plan that your coach gives you. Mike McCarthy says that Aaron has a tremendous amount of input into this game plan. But you're an offensive-minded coach. Like, you really can't peddle it off on the quarterback. If you have Davante Adams, who's not only the best wide receiver on that team, but if you had to go through a list of top 10 wide receivers in the league, Davante Adams better be on that list. That's how good that guy is. He had better be on that list. And yet, we're in a situation with Aaron Rodgers where like he's not getting open. And it's not for the lack of speed. He's as athletic as they come. It is because the scheme does not get him open. Now, how much influence Aaron Rodgers has on that, I'll leave up to them. But I think Aaron Rodgers wants Mike McCarthy gone because Mike McCarthy and this offense has been underachieving for a really long time. And that was prior to the injuries that Aaron Rodgers has suffered over the last couple of seasons. You're listening to All New Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Kevin Durant can leave the Warriors. He can leave. And it would make all the sense in the world. In fact, it would make more sense. He'll play out his last year this year. He could do 1 year, 2 year deals and just re-up. But he said out loud that he doesn't know. And I believe he doesn't know. And I like this age of player honesty, by the way. Where players are like, yeah, I could tell you that I want to be here forever and that I'm loyal to the Bay. But I don't know. Like, I could, but I'm not sure. We've heard all kinds of rumors. The one that seems to have the most legs is Kevin Durant to the Knicks. Because his agent is attached to that organization in some manner. And Kevin Durant himself is a guy that is aware of basketball history and what it would mean to play in that city, play in the Garden. Kevin Durant to the Knicks makes a ton of sense. Also, Kevin Durant, his career has very closely followed the pattern of what LeBron's career has done. And look, if a blueprint works, don't even bother fixing it. Kevin Durant, if following LeBron makes sense for you, hey, do what you got to do. But what happened with LeBron? LeBron was in Cleveland. He went to Miami. We villainized him for going to Miami. We put asterisks next to his championships when he won them in Miami. Why? Because it was easy, and he was with Bosh, and he was with Wade. And then he went back to Cleveland. He won another one. We gave him credit for all four. Isn't that nuts? And now that he's gone to LA, where it's not easier. You're playing with a bunch of young guys. You're not even the fifth best team in the West. Like we've given him a free pass. People have called Kevin Durant Cupcake. They've called him Snake. But if Kevin Durant goes to New York, first off, were he to go to New York, that would immediately be the third best team in the East, just easily. Plus, I'd like the balance of, one of those Western Conference guys moving out East. Because, come on, man. The West is stacked, and it's not even fair at this point. But you could go out East. You'd be the third best team immediately. If you could draw another superstar, you could be the best team. You could compete for a title at least. And if you compete for a title and maybe win one, people are going to give you credit for all of the ones that you had before. Because that's just how we work. And we're so, what have you done for me lately? We will give you credit for stuff. We hated that you did it. We hated that he went to the Warriors. We hated that he won a title that way. We'll give him credit for it. If he wins one in New York, we'll give him credit for it. He's going to join Kristaps Porzingis. They just need a guard. They'll be the best team in the East. Like, Kevin Durant going to the Warriors not only makes sense, I am shocked that he didn't just come out and say it. That's the real surprise there to me. And this is your daily reminder while we're sticking around in the NBA. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on All New Nuga Radio here on 92.7 FM. But while we're sticking into the NBA, this is your daily reminder that the Mavericks hosed the Hawks on draft day. The Hawks had Luka Doncic, and they traded him for Trae Young. And I understand why you would do that. I understand why you would trade for Trae Young. Trae Young reminds everyone of Steph Curry. And I like it. I like the comparison. I like the confidence. And I like Trae Young. This always sounds like I just showed up, and I just wanted to beat Trae Young and his reputation over the head with a club, with some kind of cudgel. That's not true. I like Trae Young a lot. I liked him in college. He plays for the filthy Oklahoma Sooners, but I liked him in college. I did. He was fun and exciting, but he has obvious flaws and weaknesses, and it's not fair to compare him to Steph Curry. Like, Steph is a once-in-a-generational talent. Does Trae Young have Steph Curry range? Yeah, he does. Does he even have like a Steph Curry kind of quick release? Yeah, he does. Like, there's similarities there. But that's about where they end. Steph Curry is a better passer. As much as we like to pretend that Steph Curry is tiny, Steph Curry is bigger than Trae Young by a lot. Trae Young is about 6 foot. Steph Curry 6'3". There's a big gap there. There's a big gap. And Steph, as a ball handler, is miles ahead of Trae Young. Trae Young's pretty good as a ball handler. Steph is just on another level. To give Steph Curry the status, or to give Trae Young the status of, well, he reminds us of Steph and he could be like Steph. Don't do that to him. It was all the stuff that I didn't like with Baker Mayfield, where people looked at Baker Mayfield and said, I see Drew Brees. I see Russell Wilson. No, you don't. Russell Wilson's a better athlete than Baker, and Drew Brees is the most accurate quarterback that has ever lived. Why do we have to make those comparisons? Like, you look at him and you see Steph, I guess, but you know what? I look at Trae Young and I see a guy who's not better than Luka Doncic. That's what I see. Luka Doncic played in Europe, and that's the knock against Luka. And it stinks for him, because there was a time when drafting a European player, that was a risk. We didn't send our scouts over there. We didn't know who any of those guys were. We were just doing these weird workouts with these guys and going, yep, I think he's got potential, like Joe Dumars did with Darko. But here's the thing with Luka. Luka plays in the modern era. Not only do we send scouts over there, we get the film back of Luka Doncic as a teenager dominating a league filled with grown men in 1080p. In 1080p. It's not some grainy YouTube video that you had to go, is that him or is that a pixel? In 1080p, we've seen what Luka Doncic can do. Dirk Nowitzki is already convinced that Luka Doncic has the potential to be every bit as good as him. So how is this possible that we have allowed this to go on to the point where the Hawks traded him away for a guy that maybe could potentially play kind of like Steph? The Atlanta Hawks made a mistake. They made a mistake, and they ought to know better. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on all new Nougat Radio, NougatRadio.com, here on 92.7 FM. There's some teams in the NFL that if they lose today, they're going to have to hit the panic button. I think that we're at that point in the season. Again, 4 games in is far enough in to tell who's got a chance and who doesn't have a chance. It's not telling you who's good and who's bad, because there are a lot of good teams. One win. But it's telling you who doesn't have a chance. If you lose today and you are any of the following teams, you're going to have to hit the panic button. I already talked earlier in the show about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was telling you that the Steelers have many problems. Le'Veon Bell is just one. He's the biggest problem. Not being able to run the football takes away from the balance of this entire football team. They've just given up on running it. They can't. All that noise that offensive line was talking about, where they were mad at Le'Veon Bell and they thought that he was being selfish. Well, what now? And we saw what happened to Earl Bennett in Seattle. He broke his leg playing when he should have been holding out. Le'Veon Bell's not coming back, he said, until the bye week. He gets paid for the bye week, by the way, which I just think is lovely. He gets paid for the bye week. But yeah, Le'Veon Bell, that's a big part of what's wrong with the Steelers. The biggest part of what's wrong with the Steelers, and the part that's not going to get fixed even when Le'Veon Bell comes back, that secondary cannot defend anybody. I am not an NFL quarterback. but I feel confident that I can throw the ball 25 yards. And knowing that I can throw the ball 25 yards, I feel confident that I could throw against this Steelers defense. Why? Because they haven't stopped anybody yet. They were struggling to stop Tyrod Taylor. They were struggling to stop Tyrod Taylor, who I think is a serviceable quarterback and a guy that can be a backup on any squad in the NFL. But he shouldn't be dominating you. And he was. He was dominating them. The Steelers are 1-2-1. If they lose today, they've got to hit the panic button. And I'll give you my picks later as to whether or not I think the Steelers actually will win. They play the Falcons, and the Falcons are the other team. The Falcons are the other panic button team. They're 1-3. They get Devontae Freeman back today from injury, so that helps. And they are playing the Steelers secondary, which also helps. This is a better team than 1-3. They lost a lot of close games. They lost that first game to Philadelphia early, which they should not have done. And I get that. They shouldn't have lost the way that they did, but both of those teams played ugly football, and somebody, I guess, had to. And then they lost a close one to the Saints in overtime. But Matt Ryan and company balled about as hard as they could. Sometimes you just play the best version of Drew Brees. I don't even think they play bad defense. I just think the rules are geared towards offense, and Drew Brees is Drew Brees. They played the best version of Drew Brees that day, went to overtime, and lost. This is not a bad football team, Atlanta. This is a very good football team. You can come back from 2-3 in the season. You cannot come back from 1-4 as easily, especially in a division as tough as theirs. The Saints are in that division. The Panthers are in that division. I don't think that you have to necessarily be worried about the Buccaneers, but you know, it is what it is on that. But you can't fall behind in this division. You're going to get lost. You have to win today. 2-3, that's serviceable. You could find yourself 500 by next week. But you've got to be able to put it together. It's a panic button game if you're the Atlanta Falcons. It's also a panic button game if you're the Lions. Now, if you're the Lions, though, your season is already over for a couple of reasons. One, you're the Lions. Two, the only team that you've managed to beat is the team that your current head coach used to coach the defense of. So he knows that defense. The only team he's managed to beat is a team where the scouting report was he knew everything. That's the only team he's managed to beat so far this year. And I got to tell you, that's not fundamentally helpful. That doesn't tell me that this guy's a good coach. The reason why this is a panic button game, they play the Packers. It is a tough game. This isn't even a panic button game if they lose. But if the Lions go out again, and if the Lions look like they don't know how to football again, and if the Lions look like they have no clue how to stop anybody defensively, I know it's tough to stop Rodgers, but he's hurt, and other teams have done it so far this year. The Bears did it for a half. The Redskins did it. If you can go out there and look like you know how to stop Aaron Rodgers with a bum knee, then, okay, sure, it's not a panic button game. But this is a panic button game if you go out there and you look awful. And the Lions and Matt Patricia, they've been looking awful. This is also a panic button game if you're the Vikings. They're 1-2-1 in a division where the Bears look like they know how to handle business. The Packers are always lurking. They have Aaron Rodgers. He's legitimate, and he's going to get healthier as the season goes on. Right, like he's going to, like, as his knee heals, you're not going to have old hobbled Aaron Rodgers over there. If you're the Vikings. And the other reason why this is obviously a panic button game if you're the Vikings is you're 1-2-1. You could potentially be 1-3-1. And you paid your quarterback $75 million in guaranteed money to go out there and win you football games. And one of the losses that you have this year is the Bills. It's the Bills. So, yeah, panic button game for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to go ahead and give you my picks. And the last shot next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Kirby Wallace was on the TBI's top 10 most wanted list, and he was taken into custody on Friday morning. Rob Edwards with the Humphreys County Sheriff's Department said he was arrested in the woods, and his weapons have been recovered. Wallace accused of killing 2 people, torching a home, and stealing a car. Road construction to continue over the weekend and into Monday on I-24 going across the ridge cut. Crews working to replace a section of deteriorating concrete in the far right lane heading westbound. Work was expected to take place over the weekend into Monday on 27 at the Old Jotty Bridge, but it was finished early, so road closures will not be a problem. Case closed after a bizarre turn of events where the police believe a man who shot a victim on Windsor Street was shot and killed himself. 18-year-old Arion Lane was found shot to death on East 3rd Street. The suspects came forward and turned themselves in. Lane's accused of shooting and killing Teontae Rice on Windsor Street on the 28th. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
David Toulis on Made the Move, 1 o'clock every weekday afternoon, 1 till 3, Nuga Radio.
92.7 Chattanooga weather. After some patchy morning fog, very warm, if not hot again for your Sunday. Highs into the upper 80s. Could see a spotty afternoon shower, but not many. Tonight, lows back into the upper 60s. For Monday, highs back into the mid and upper 80s with bigger changes for the middle of next week. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center, now in Dalton and Ringgold. For more, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
Nuga Radio 92.7. Where to go for lunch today? Go to the Top. The Top of the Hill Country Buffet offers a delicious lunch buffet every day. Golden fried chicken with mashed potatoes from scratch, daily fresh vegetables, a full salad bar with all the fixins, and fresh homemade cobbler. In addition to the buffet, Top of the Hill also offers a full menu. Plus, kids eat for $5 all day. Top of the Hill is located in Ringgold on Remco Shops Lane and is open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Where are you going for lunch? Go to the Top.
I live, work, and play in Chattanooga, the scenic city. But when it comes to my next car, truck, or SUV, I'm Alabama bound. Fort Payne, Alabama, and Landers McClarty Ford. Big city selection of new and pre-owned vehicles with the small town price and friendly service. Now, I'm not knocking my hometown, but when it comes to my next ride, I only go to Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. Their selection is huge. But if I can't find what I want, they'll find it for me with the same low price, same great service, and only a short drive away. And I can go online to look around before I leave the house. Got that next dream ride in your head yet? Yeah, you do. Get a head start at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Don't just dream it, find it at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. That's right, Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne, Alabama.
Nuga Radio. Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with?
Eric.
You're our winner.
Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nuga Radio
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Listen to that. That's the sound of power and the call of the open road. That's the sound of the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. It's more than a bike. It's an experience and an American icon. The place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. The open road is calling. Answer the call. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
The kids are back in school, routine has returned, and we've shifted our thoughts to the fast approaching holiday season. Are you hosting? Want to spruce up before your guests arrive? Whether you want new color and exciting wallpaper or elegant window treatments, the designers at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating can help. With brands like York, Tebow, Graber, and Carroll, we know you'll find something you love. Stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today. It's really more than just a paint store. On Hicks and Pike, across from Valvoline, or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Nuga Radio. Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nuga Radio.
Hello, Chattanooga. Listen to all new Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Thank you for joining me. Making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you. Yeah, producer Jason commenting on the Facebook page at how sad and empty and lonely the studio looks when it's just me. Yeah, I've noticed. I have noticed. The Breakfast Blitz is packed. We had four people yesterday here for the first half of the show anyway, before Sam took off. Yeah, the studio usually winds up having more than one person in it, but Sunday is my day. And, it is lonely in here. It's lonely, and by the way, it's blanking cold in here. That is the only other complaint that I have. But anywho, we have a lot of games to get to, so I'm not going to sit here and waste all of your time with my senseless rambling. I have to also get to a last shot that may or may not involve the mythology of Kobe Bryant falling apart. So both of those things will be happening. But let me start with the picks, starting with the 1:00 game. The Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Kansas City Chiefs on CBS. I'm just going to pick these games outright, just for the speed of it. Me having to tell you who's going to cover and then who's going to be winning outright is way too much work. And if you have two people, it's great. When it's just you, it's really not that great. So Jaguars, Chiefs. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win outright. People were asking this about Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, can he bounce back? Does he play well under pressure? We haven't had to see that because Patrick Mahomes was essentially just slicing apart subpar defenses. We saw that the most when they were playing the Steelers. Granted, Patrick Mahomes plays offense for a team with a subpar defense. So he's going to have to prove week in and week out that he can win in a variety of different ways. And we saw in the Denver game, Patrick Mahomes have to win while his team was down. We hadn't had to see that yet. It wasn't a 7-touchdown day for him. He only threw 3 over the course of that game. And we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more of Patrick Mahomes normal. We're going to see more of Patrick Mahomes looking mortal. Can Patrick Mahomes win football games from behind? He showed that against Denver. That's a talented front seven they have in Denver. Yeah, they have secondary problems in Denver, but that's a talented front seven. And the pressure got to him and he escaped. He made them look stupid. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. That guy's legit. And Jacksonville is an elite level defense that is still quarterbacked by Blake Bortles. And you ride the highs and lows of Blake Bortles. You do. You don't have a choice. Patrick Mahomes is not giving you highs and lows. He's been very consistent. How long can he keep this up? I don't know, but I do see a legitimate NFL talent. And that's not crazy to say this early. He's 4 games in to this season. He played a couple of games last year at the end of last season as well. He's played enough games to where you can look and tell Is Patrick Mahomes real or is he not real? And I went over this, we talked about this a few weeks ago. He's real. Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. I'm taking the Chiefs over the Jaguars. The Titans are playing the Bills. They are favored by 5 points. That sounds about right. They are in Buffalo. But I will say this. This is a trap game. This is a letdown game. You could easily go out there and lay a duck against the Bills. And we've seen the Titans do this before. We've seen the Titans go out. They're riding high. Mariota had the game-winning touchdown last week. We've seen this. And they go out and somehow still find a way to lose games against teams like the Bills. But if this is a new Titans team, the kind of team that doesn't lose to fall into trap games, the kind of team that handles their business no matter who they're playing, then we're going to see a team, and I had them in my real list this week. I think the Titans are real. If the Titans are actually real, this is the kind of game that they're going to have to win moving forward. The Atlanta Falcons taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're both on my panic button list. The Falcons lose today. They're 1-4, and that's a wrap. They're 1-4, and it's over. You can try and come back from 1-4. Some teams have gotten close. Last year, the Chargers scrambled, and they were half a game essentially from the playoffs last year at 1-4. But even they didn't make the playoffs. And in this division is actually tough. This division is actually hard. You've got the Saints, Panthers, and the Buccaneers will ruin your day. You can't afford to go 1-4 in this division. 2-3, that's manageable. The Falcons have to win. The Steelers also have to win. They're 1-2-1. They don't have Le'Veon Bell back until their bye week. Their defense is a mess. It's in shambles. They have no running game. If the Steelers lose, can they wait until Le'Veon Bell gets back to put it all together? I just don't think that they can. I don't see it. I'm taking the Falcons. The Steelers are more of a mess. The Falcons aren't a mess. They lost a close game early to the Eagles. They lost another close game to the Saints on a absolutely masterful day by Drew Brees. The Falcons are the better football team in this game. I'm taking the Falcons. The Packers are playing the Lions. The Lions are one of my panic button teams because if they come out there and they look bad, they look like they can't play, Matt Patricia's in trouble in year one. And I'm the patient guy. I'm the guy that says, wait, let it build. Let him get his guys in there. Let him get the system and the players to buy in. The players already don't like him. And the only team they've managed to beat is a team where he previously coached the defense. So that's not looking good either. My situation with Matt Patricia is basically he stands the risk of losing this team. You can be irritating, mean, and annoying if people win, if people are successful. But if you are irritating, mean, and annoying and you are unsuccessful, well, how do you expect that to work out? The players already don't like him. He stands the risk of losing that locker room. The Packers are better, though. The Lions still look like a mess. I'm not choosing Matt Patricia. I'm going to go ahead and take Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to win in that game. And that's a pick 'em, by the way. That's a 50-50. Vegas doesn't even know what to do with that one. Denver visiting New York and the Jets. Denver's got a lot of problems. Their secondary doesn't make any sense. And Case Keenum makes a lot of mistakes as a quarterback pre-snap. He can clearly throw the ball. He's talented as an arm talent. But in terms of diagnosing a defense, Case Keenum has struggled all season long. And the Jets are still a pretty decent defensive squad scheme-wise. They obviously don't have the talent to necessarily sustain that, but you don't necessarily need that against Case Keenum. Also, Sam Darnold is going to have a bounce-back game. I don't trust the Broncos secondary. I think Sam Darnold has a bounce-back game. He starts to look more like the Sam Darnold that we started to crown and put the gold jacket on him in week one. He looks more like that guy in this game because the secondary for the Broncos is so unreliable. The Giants are visiting Carolina. They're giving up 6.5 points to the Panthers. And yeah, the Giants are bad. But they're bad because Eli's bad. They're bad because that offensive line is bad, that they're overpaying their left tackle, that they are a mess offensively. Defensively, they're all right. But the problem is the Panthers have figured out how to play offense. They figured out how to work Christian McCaffrey into what it is that they're doing. And that has to give you a lot of hope if you're Panthers fans. This team is potentially like a potential dark horse to make a Super Bowl. You've got Cam playing at a decently high level. The running game is now a factor. They know how to use Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. And the Giants, Eli's throwing ducks. Miami visiting Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a 6-point favorite. The Dolphins, though, I feel like showed me their true colors last week. I went ahead and picked the Dolphins last week against the Patriots, and the Patriots reminded us that they are, in fact, the Miami Dolphins. The Patriots showed us exactly what the Dolphins are capable of. Are the Bengals the Patriots? No. But the Bengals have been playing really well. The Bengals have a solid defense, and they are playing with the best that you can play with Andy Dalton, which is solidly. And then every now and then he'll throw it up there to AJ Green, and that's real scary. That is a real scary situation because AJ Green's still a playmaker, and I think we forgot that because he had a down year last year. Baltimore visiting Cleveland. Baltimore is a 3-point favorite on the road. Baltimore also likes to drop games that they ought to win. Baltimore is better than Cleveland. They're much better than Cleveland, though a lot of Baltimore looking good is that Joe Flacco gets to unleash against bad secondaries. You know what's crazy about Cleveland? They don't have a bad secondary. Cleveland's secondary is really good. Defensively, the Browns are hard to score on. Now, I know last week was not the best indicator of that. They lost a very close game to the Oakland Raiders in a shootout where Derek Carr looked like what the Raiders paid for. But Derek Carr's a better quarterback than Joe Flacco. And it's tough. I don't necessarily want to pick against the Ravens here because I do think overall they're the better football team, but you ride the roller coaster of Flacco. Last week you got an up week. This week you're going up against a much better defense, a much better secondary. Baker Mayfield can still ball, and those receivers are starting to get in sync with the fact that Baker Mayfield throws much harder passes than Tyrod Taylor. And what that leads to is you got some drops. The drops have started to decrease. We're going to see a better Browns offense. We've been seeing a better Browns offense. We've seen a really good Browns defense. I don't think Flacco is going to play consistently. I can't choose him. I'm taking the Browns at home. That's right. It's not going to be another 265 days between victories for this football team. And Oakland is going to be visiting the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are 5-point favorites. The Chargers are underachieving, but that happens early in the season. Every season, it feels like. That's just how it goes. But I will say this. The Raiders secondary is ripe to be lit on fire by Phillip Rivers. The Chargers at home, Phil Rivers is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league. Nobody talks about him as much. People give more credit to Eli Manning. If I had my druthers, Phillip Rivers would make it into the Hall of Fame over Eli Manning because he is a better quarterback. He never played on a better team. He never had a better defense, but he's a better quarterback. So even though he doesn't have the 2 rings, he's more of a Hall of Famer than Eli is. And I think you got to give me that. I'm going to take the Chargers to beat the Raiders at home today because Phillip Rivers and that Raiders secondary, that's chopped liver. Also, the Raiders, as John Gruden tells us all the time, can't generate a pass rush. Can't do it. They don't have any means by which to get after the quarterback, and that's the wrong quarterback to not be able to sack, get pressures on, to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Starting in the 4 o'clock games, the LA Rams are visiting the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not going to spend too much time breaking this down. The Seahawks offensive line is bad. They don't have any receivers not named Lockett, and Lockett is a tiny receiver. Their defense is porous, and they don't have Earl Bennett. The Seattle Seahawks are going to be beaten to death by Jared Goff and the Rams, who are the league's best offense, And by the way, a solid defense in their own right. They're going to beat the Seahawks to death. The next 4 o'clock game is a game that I think people ought to pay attention to. Arizona and San Francisco. I know. No Garoppolo. But Josh Rosen has the potential to win his first NFL start in this game, and he looked really good last week. I thought he made some great pre-snap reads. I thought he went through his progressions really well, and he made some beautiful throws also. I'm really liking this rookie class of quarterbacks in the NFL. And if you have a chance to watch any of these guys, I think you really ought to. I know that a lot of the third and second year guys, Mahomes, Goff, are fun to watch, but these first year guys, Darnold, Mayfield, and here Rosen, they're fun to watch too. And I think that you should probably check that game out. Minnesota and Philadelphia play today. This is a panic button game, especially if you're Minnesota, because you paid your quarterback $75 million of guaranteed money, and he's managed to, through 4 games, managed to win you exactly 1 football game and lose one badly to the Bills. The Eagles are hungry for a win. I think the Eagles know exactly what's going on in the NFC East, which is that the Redskins look a little bit tougher than expected, that the Cowboys don't just go away. Ezekiel Elliott's still there. That's still a solid-ish football team. And the Eagles, who ran away with the division last year, can't just turn around and expect to run away with it again. The Eagles at home. Carson Wentz still returning to form. I just don't trust the Vikings right now. They're missing players in that defense. That secondary's dinged up. Everson Griffin obviously dealing with some mental issues. And so, they just don't have everybody together on that side of the ball. That's their bread and butter. And we saw them get taken apart by Jared Goff. Carson Wentz is a better quarterback than Jared Goff. The Eagles have some great weapons for him to use. I'm taking the Eagles at home. Sunday night football game of the week, Dallas and Houston. The Houston Texans are at home against the Dallas Cowboys, and I have ragged on the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are a bad football team. They have good parts, but the whole is not equaling the sum of the parts. They're a bad football team, and Dak Prescott, he's playing poorly. Jason Garrett should be on the hot seat. He's not, but he should be. Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator, certainly is on the hot seat. I have friends back in Dallas that every day they tell me he should be fired for his uncreative, unimaginative defenses, or offenses rather, that nobody gets open. Des Bryant, that's starting to look more and more like a mistake every single week that we have to sit down and watch the Dallas Cowboys. And still, I think that they should be able to beat the Texans. And here's why. We have seen a regressing season from Deshaun Watson. I still like Deshaun Watson. I don't think this says that Deshaun Watson doesn't have the capability of being a quarterback in the NFL, but he clearly won a lot of games last year that he shouldn't have won. So sometimes the inverse is going to be true. He's going to lose games that he ought to win as he starts to balance out and become a more well-rounded NFL quarterback. But the big key here is that the Texans are terrible against the run. And Ezekiel Elliott is, quite frankly, the only functioning part of the Dallas Cowboys. He should feast today. Yeah, the Texans are probably going to load up an 8-man box because Dak Prescott still hasn't proven to me that he can beat anybody over the top. But Ezekiel Elliott should give them a chance. And the only way that the Cowboys lose to the Texans is if Deshaun Watson erupts and looks like Deshaun Watson of last year. I'll believe it when I see it. So I'm going to take the Cowboys to win on the road. And the Monday night game is my Washington Redskins visiting the New Orleans Saints. I spoke truth into being yesterday when I said that the Longhorns were going to beat the Oklahoma Sooners, and I would like to speak truth into reality again, except I don't think that makes any sense. Drew Brees is the most accurate quarterback that has ever lived. And he is playing a Redskins defense that's okay. The Redskins offensively, I don't know where they're at. Some weeks they can put up 30. Some weeks, the week against the Colts, did they even put up 12? No, I think they scored 9. I don't know where this offense is on a week-to-week basis. Sometimes Alex Smith checks the ball down 20 times a game. Sometimes He opens the game up with a 60-yard bomb. There's just no consistency in this offense. And the one thing that you can't be against the Saints is an inconsistent offense, because the Saints already know what the score is. They have to outscore everybody they're playing. They have to put it up on the board every single week. They already know. They're in that mode already. If you show up and you don't know what you're doing, guess what? They beat you. And that's what I think of the Redskins. The Redskins are giving up 6 points on the road. The Saints are at home in the Dome, for starters. And then secondly, they've got Breeze. And thirdly, they're in shootout mode. I don't think the Redskins have a chance to beat the Saints on the road in prime time on Monday night. I just don't see it. You're listening to All New Nougat Radio at NougatRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. And it's time for The Last Shot, which I give my opinion on just a thing in the world. Sometimes it's related to sports. Sometimes it's not. This time it actually is related to sports. Kobe Bryant and the mythological flinch allegedly has been debunked by an alternate camera view that shows that Kobe Bryant wasn't standing directly in front of Matt Barnes when Matt Barnes faked him out and Kobe didn't move an inch. And then it turns out Kobe was kind of standing off to the side of Matt Barnes. And a lot of people feel like their childhood got ruined by this one, like when we all found out that Pluto wasn't a planet. But you know what? This is actually different from that. The only person interested in the mythology of Kobe Bryant is Kobe Bryant. And Kobe went on Twitter to say, hey, no, that's still awesome. Look at me. I was just swaying. Kobe, listen. You're a great player. You don't need to build fake myths for us. We already know you're great. But no, he's Kobe, and he's got to be a legend all the way down to the end. You're listening to All New Nougat Radio, NougatRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me today, making me this a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see you next week.
Traffic, news, and information. Nougat Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chatta, Nougat Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
Case closed after a bizarre turn of events where the police believe a man who shot a victim on Windsor Street was shot and killed himself. 18-year-old Arion Lane was found shot to death on East 3rd Street. The suspects came forward and turned themselves in. Lane's accused of shooting and killing Deontay Rice on Windsor Street on the 28th. Kirby Wallace was on the TBI's top 10 most wanted list, and he was taken into custody on Friday morning. Rob Edwards with the Humphreys County Sheriff's Department said he was arrested in the woods, and his weapons have been recovered. Wallace accused of killing 2 people, torching a home, and stealing a car. Road construction to continue over the weekend and into Monday on I-24 going across the ridge cut. Crews working to replace a section of deteriorating concrete in the far right lane heading westbound. Work was expected to take place over the weekend into Monday on 27 at the Old Jotty Bridge, but it was finished early, so road closures will not be a problem. Russell Street.